Together. So when I say there's no place like home, how many people instantly hear Dorothy and the shoes? Which is not far off from where this topic kind of comes from, but we're going to take a little different approach. This whole idea of home, right? We each probably have a very different idea of what that means. For some people, it's a place. For some people, it's a group of people. For some people, it's the absence of people. You know, my idea of home involves one person and two furry, four-legged children. Okay? For some people, home includes every relative they've ever had and those relatives in a specific town. And none of that is right, none of that is wrong, none of it is good, none of it is bad. It's simply how we relate to the word home. I think what is more deeply available to us is to understand the ingrained idea of home as safety, as the place where we're safe, as that refuge where everything that is angst created, we can come in, close the door, and it all stays out there. And while that works to some degree in the human realm, in the spiritual realm, not so much. Because in the spiritual realm of oneness, there's no door to close. There's no out there or in here, because there's just one. And that's, we've been really spending a lot of time with that in our discussion groups, because that's the dance. That's the difficulty. We live in a physical realm where we experience everything as separate, and yet spiritually nothing is. So spiritually, where might home be? And I think it's at the center of being. Notice I left off the word my, because I want us to go to something bigger than my being or your being. That home is literally at the center of being, the center of consciousness itself. That is the place of home that perhaps we're all trying to get back to. We're going to be spending some time all month with Joseph Campbell's monomyth, The 17 Stages of the Hero's Journey. And this is certainly not without controversy. Okay? Because part of the challenge with any of the stuff that we talk about and bring up is our tendency to use it to support our own personal agenda. And so while there are parts of this model that are brilliant, this model has been used to excuse horrendous human behavior. Right? And sometimes we do that. Well, if it's all God, then horrendous behavior number 697 must be all God too. Yes and no. It's all God in that is all there is that creates. That doesn't mean we're using the creative power in alignment with the essence. Because we're free to use our creative power however we choose. We have to be. If we didn't have the freedom to use it however we choose, there would be no freedom. Right? You can't have absolute freedom with a restriction. It's not possible. Right? So here's what, there's three main stages. See if you can relate to it with your spiritual journey. Not so much your human journey, it's your spiritual journey. 3 stages: separation, initiation, and return. Ernest Holmes says the only thing that ever needs to be healed is our idea of separation. Not that we have ever actually been separate, but we think we are, therefore it becomes our experience. In oneness, there can't be something else, right? But if we think we're separate, we experience separation. In the hero's journey, Campbell talks about that as that point where you have a nudge to step beyond your human experience, to grow, if you will. We talked about this last month in the workshops after the service, right? That divine nudge that some of us go, yeah, that's not happening, right? Because it feels too big. Sometimes the divine nudge of spirit wanting to express feels crazy to our humanity. That's the call to adventure. Interestingly enough, the next step is the refusal to go. Right? I know I've been there. It's like, yeah, I hear that nudge and no thank you. Absolutely no thank you. And then the next step he titles Supernatural Aid, which I think for our spiritual walk relates to that place where we know it's ours to do, we're resisting, and the resistance becomes too painful, and so we find an inner guidance that supports us to be courageous in this human realm, to step out into an adventure that makes no sense to us, where we just gotta go, okay, here I go, without any guarantee of where it's gonna take us. That's the part where he defines crossing the threshold. It's literally that moment where we step beyond the threshold, where we step out of our comfort zone, where we stop playing basketball. You know, basketball, you got to have a pivot foot. And so we keep one foot in our comfort zone and we step out, we step back, we step out, we step back. Crossing the threshold is when we pick up the second foot and we step out of our comfort zone into something new that is unpredictable, knowing that we don't know if we're going to be okay. Right? That leads us into the period of initiation. Some of the language that Campbell uses is the belly of the whale. Now, that's certainly a biblical reference, right? Where, you know, in 12-step recovery, I've heard that is you can go kicking and screaming or you can go singing and dancing, but you're going to go. Right? Another thing he uses is the road of trials. This is where we can get really messy with it if we're trying to apply the hero's journey to somebody else's journey. If we're using this tool to judge other people's journey, we get into that, well, it's all God, so they deserve it. We look at the trials other people are going through, and we take it upon ourselves to determine where they are in their journey and that they needed to fear, we needed racism, apparently, because we have it. I don't think that's true. I think we have it because we're still stuck in the separation phase. I encourage you, apply this to yourself, not to other people. Because the hero's journey is about your journey, not somebody else's journey. We don't get to figure out what somebody else's journey is. That's none of our business. Your journey, not my business. My job is to help you clarify your journey, not to tell you what it is. It's to walk it with you, not for you, right? Same thing applies. So then we're having all these bumps, right? And we keep getting divine encouragement, and we keep getting clarity, and the temptations keep coming. And it's so easy in this initiation phase to bail out of the process and go back to separation. Don't make us bad folks. It just makes us having a human experience of something that we have convinced ourselves we're not ready for. But what if you are? What if you are fully equipped to truly navigate and learn from every messy moment of the journey? But in order to do that, we have to go through this process of atonement. I'm not even going to articulate the language that he uses because it's binary and it's sexist and it's unnecessary to articulate, so I'm not going to. Atonement literally means at one-ment. And so part of this initiation process is coming back to the truth of oneness. That when we're going through all of these trials, all of these tribulations, all of the things we call problems, right? Can we keep coming back to atonement, at one-ment, where we recognize, where we get off the triangle, we've talked about this before, where we stop finger pointing, where we understand that oneness is really operating. No matter what it looks like, there's still only one of us here. We are not our behaviors. Behavior is evidence of the belief, not evidence of the essence of who we are. And so we practice forgiveness, which I think is the first part of atonement. Before I can see beyond your behavior, I have to practice forgiveness of the thought that is creating the behavior. And sometimes I have to start with myself, because while the behavior may be slightly different, what motivates it can be very much the same. That sense of separation, that sense of fear, whatever we call it. And so practice self-forgiveness, and then practice forgiving the person that is behaving badly. Go back to one-ment, at one-ment. Right? And as we do that, we begin to really get clear about the essence of being. That our return home isn't a place anymore, it's a state of being. I think it's what Ernest Holmes talked about when the book was titled A Philosophy of Faith, A Way of Being. That the first stage, the separation, can be looked at as the philosophy. The initiation part can be looked at as building faith. And the return is the way of living, a way of being. And we get really close to that return to who we are, and it means letting go of our identity as human. Right? It doesn't mean that I stop having an experience of humanity. It means that I let go of the identity. I let go of this is what I am, and understand that I am divinity expressing as human. That my identity is divinity. And the last stage in the initiation period is a refusal to go home. So here we are at that point again, where no, I'm not ready, I'm not willing, I don't know how, however that refusal shows up, to let go of my human identity and live from my spiritual essence. And that's the return home. And I'm going to stop there for today. I just want to give you some things to think about over the next week. Play with it. Where are you in the process? And I'm pretty sure we can be in multiple stages within a 30-second period. So Be gentle with yourself. It's not a finite thing. I will share this quote in closing. Joseph Campbell. We must be willing to let go of the life we planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us. Let's take this into prayer. So grateful. So grateful for the one love, one life, one peace, one power, one presence that creates itself in multiplicity, that surrenders its control of its creation, opening the door for us to courageously grapple on our journey home, on our journey back to the truth of being grateful. And so I know that this time has been a time of igniting consideration, igniting possibility, igniting divine nudges of the infinite possibility that lives, moves, and has its being as each and every form of creation. Grateful. Grateful to know that life is always nudging itself forward. Grateful for the power of choice. And so I simply surrender in gratitude for whatever is chosen, for whatever is chosen, knowing that each path is divinely guided and ordered by the power of choice within each. And so I celebrate that choice. I celebrate that we can't do it wrong. We just get to do it. And so with deep, deep gratitude, I release my word knowing that the word spoken is the word fulfilled. I let it go. I let it be.